If I get really close to the camera like this, you can't see anything. But if you zoom out, you can see my whole outfit. You can see that Dylan's wearing his iconic HEB jacket. You can see that I'm in my garage. Long story short, life is the same way. You think you always gotta zoom in on your problem, try harder, dig deeper, when really, the answer was on the surface the whole time. People always ask me, when it comes to dieting, Dylan, what finally made it click for you? What finally gave you that epiphany of how to transform yourself, how to do this journey, how to lose 130 pounds? And the thing is every time I try to diet and failed is because I associated it with being difficult. I always associated dieting with something I didn't enjoy. You know, I always thought I had to eat bland chicken and rice, over-restrict myself. I couldn't enjoy anything delicious. That's simply not the case. Once I learned about a calorie deficit, I was like, I can still eat all the foods I want and lose weight. And then once I started seeing progress, one thing led to another. I kept learning more tricks. I'm like, oh my God, I can make Greek yogurt taste good. I love strawberries. Those are freaking 140 calories a pound. And then boom, I started dropping weight. Because I realized that it didn't have to be hard. Now, it wasn't easy. I was hungry. But it didn't have to be so complicated, I guess. My diet was simple. Stay in a calorie deficit, hit my protein, I'll lose weight. And I'll retain muscle mass. Simple. There's no complex supplements, tricks. I didn't have to do a bunch of cardio. I didn't have to freaking go run 2 miles. I didn't have to do any of that. Sometimes it's just about reframing your problem. With the way I finally got my dad to start freaking macro tracking and counting his calories and putting himself in a deficit was he used to drink the full sugar sodas. I was like, Dad, one of these bottles is 230 calories. If you drank 2, maybe on a crazy day 3, that's like 500 to 600 calories, 700 calories. If you just cut those out and switch to diet soda, then you could put yourself in a deficit just like that, just with that one small change. Another example of this is as a day trader, I used to think that if I just kept studying the charts, that I'd be a better day trader. But no, I was just becoming a textbook of chart patterns. I was still the same trader, I just memorized more stuff. You can memorize the whole periodic table. They make you do it in high school. I'm not a chemist. It wasn't until I zoomed out on my problem. I'm like, okay, what I'm doing is not working. Studying all these chart patterns, having all these crazy lines on my screen, all these crazy indicators on my screen, obviously is not helping me make any money. I have been losing. What gives? It wasn't until I finally zoomed out that I realized that it was the way I performed. You know, I was trading just to trade. I lost sight of the bigger picture. When I would lose, I'd want my money back. And when I placed that trade to get my money back, I would lose more. It wasn't until I realized that it was me creating my own losses. No matter how many indicators I put on the screen, no matter how many freaking chart patterns I studied. It was my behavior that was causing losses. Because I would lose, want my money back, and then chase that loss. And then I would chase that loss and create a bigger loss, and then it snowballed from there. All the way up until I'm losing hundreds of dollars and my account's blown up. And then it wasn't until I zoomed out and realized, okay, if I lose, I don't have to take another trade. And if I feel like I have to take another trade after the one I just placed, then the one I just placed probably wasn't a good trade to take. It wasn't until I realized that going the whole day without placing a trade is still a productive day. That is still a productive day of trading. You know? Maybe I should apply that concept to my rest days when I take them. You guys could too, you know? Say you're me and you are pretty sketchy about rest days. Tell yourself, despite not going to the gym, I am still doing what it takes to get to where I want to be. You know? Even though I didn't place a trade on a certain day, I'm still doing the steps to be a successful day trader, and here I am. But long story short, you have to, sometimes you just gotta zoom out, have a change of perspective on your problems in order to solve them. Because sometimes you guys, I see y'all just keep digging and digging and digging. When, like I said, everything is on the surface the whole time. Just something to think about. I'll be back.